Hey everybody, Michael Davis here, and welcome to Bone2Pick. I'm really excited today to be sitting down with our first husband and wife team on our Bone2Pick series. And in addition to being husband and wife, they are immensely talented musicians and extremely successful in the music industry here in New York and internationally as well. Kiku Collins hails from New Jersey, attended Interlochen as well as the Manhattan School of Music. Most of us know her from her performances with acts like Beyonce, Michael Bolton, Gloria Gaynor, Train, just to name a few. She has appeared at the White House twice with President Barack Obama. There's a really cool photo of her behind Obama on her website. You should check that out. She has numerous television appearances as both a trumpet artist, but also as an actress. She has starred in 2 off-Broadway roles as an actress. Also extensive work, like I said, on TV shows and TV commercials as well. Works as a model. She has an incredibly inspiring story about her bout with cancer and overcoming it, and really looking forward to having you hear this story because it's a remarkable story and really inspiring. On top of all that, she's also an ordained minister. So keep that in mind for your wedding plans coming up. David Gibson, we've been friends for many, many years now. He hails from the great state of Oklahoma, which is where my late grandfather was from. So I've always had a soft spot for Oklahomans. I know. He is active, extremely active on the New York music scene. As a trombonist, also as a composer, an arranger, an educator, music director, and band leader. Received his master's degree from the Eastman School of Music. He was a finalist in the 2003 Thelonious Monk Jazz Trombone Competition, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but an incredible list of finalists that were in that particular year. It was really amazing. He's gone on to perform and record with a myriad of jazz artists, including John Faddis, Roy Hargrove, Jimmy Heath, James Moody, just to name a few. He has 7 recordings as a solo artist. His groups perform regularly in New York at Smalls, Dizzy's, Smoke, Fat Cat. He is a passionate educator and clinician. He's also on the faculty at Columbia and New School. Without further ado, a big thank you to both you guys for coming all the way up to New City here. I know it's a long trip from Chelsea, but
it felt pretty good.
But thank you so much for being here and spending some time talking about your guys' extraordinary careers. Let's jump in. Let's go back to the beginning, and maybe not all the way to the beginning, but as far as back as you want.
5.5. 5.5.
Well, Kiku, why don't you lead us off and just tell us a little bit about your upbringing, how you got into music, and what drew you to the trumpet, and all those kind of things.
Okay, well, about 5.5 years old.
Yeah.
I grew up in the woods, basically, of New Jersey, and I was a terrible piano player as a kid. I sang in the church choir. I played the bells in the choir. You know, all these kind of odd little activities that taught me to read music. But mostly, as a youngster, I was a gymnast. But when I hit the 4th grade, it was a requirement to take band for a year, and so they gave us all of this written test, which I thought was odd, but whatever. And so it turned out I knew a lot more than I thought I knew about reading music, and I got a very high score. And so I got to pick, maybe first. I think I was first. And so I picked trumpet, and the teacher said, well, no, don't you want to play like flute, clarinet, something? And I did. But I said, I was told that I have to play the trumpet because we have one. And my brother was in that school, and he's 2 years older than me. And so I pointed at the wall, and there was his trumpet. I said, that's what I'm going to be using. So they had no choice. It kind of went from me being a little bit bitter about the fact that, all the girls were playing these cute little girly instruments to me trying to prove a point. Because I was told I couldn't do this thing. And so it just kind of took off really quickly. I don't know. I don't know what, some magic spark. And I really think that a lot of it was saying, well, you said I can't do this, so I'm going to do it.
Probably it's carried through later in life as well with
Yeah.
all the things you've accomplished that
Yes.
are traditionally not
Definitely.
attainable.
Yep.
David, how about yourself? Growing up in Oklahoma, and what was that? What was that
Well,
like?
I actually settled in Oklahoma maybe when I was about 11 or 12, but we moved around a lot prior to that. So the immediate locale before that was in Minnesota. And when I was in 5th grade, they did something similar where we took the test. I mean, I think that's probably standard protocol in elementary education, I would guess. But anyway, I was told that I should play the trombone. And my teacher went so far as to explain to me that I had the lips for it, which probably meant I need trombone players. And so he lived right around the corner from us, so I used to go to his house and take lessons in his basement. And if they were 15-minute lessons at first, and then 30-minute lessons, and I got into it. I really got into it. And my mom had an aptitude for music and an interest in music, so there was always music in our home. The beginning of the whole Columbia Records and Tapes Club, and so we had all these Miles Davis records and Count Basie and Buddy Rich and Nancy Wilson, and we just had tons of great in addition to Earth, Wind and Fire and Chaka Khan and Rufus, and a lot of really good music in our home. So I started trying to figure out how to do that on the trombone when I was in 5th and 6th grade. And then when we moved to Oklahoma in 7th grade, that's when they started band where I went to school. So I went from having 2 years experience and being challenged to being in a situation where everyone was just starting out. And within the next 2 years, I decided I wanted to quit. And then after my 8th grade year, the jazz ensemble director at the high school called my family and asked them if I could be a part of the jazz ensemble at the high school the next year, because they needed trombone players, typical. And I said, I don't want to do this thing anymore. I'm not interested in this. And they said, can you just come to one? We're doing these summer rehearsals. Can you just come to one? So I came to one, and I said, holy shit. I didn't realize the program was like a top-ranking program in the state for jazz in this tiny town of Yukon, Oklahoma, where at the time it was Walmart and then houses, it wasn't a lot there. So to have that experience and walk in and be playing professional level music with a bunch of high school kids, I got my ass kicked. So that was when I got interested.
Wow, very cool. So maybe talk a little bit about your guys' college experiences and also your experience at Interlochen Kiku. Sounded like you had a really great experience there, just from what I read, and interested to see what those memories are like for you.
Yeah, Interlochen was definitely a highlight. And I find that most of the alumni say the same thing. It's a great place. It's coming from such a tiny little place, it was at first terrifying to realize that I was really mediocre instead of, doing, playing principal and all state, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was nothing when I got there. It was kind of like, okay, this is some sort of a reality check. So I need to figure out if I'm ready for this for the rest of my life. And it was really good for that. Yeah, I mean, it definitely made me kind of think about whether or not this was a life I wanted. But at that point, I felt like this is all I can do at this point. This is it. And you know how it is. It's like when you're a kid, you're practicing. I mean, I never saw the lunchroom in my high school in New Jersey, because every day I would bring something to eat and I would sit in a practice room and I'd be playing etudes and I would take a bite of something and keep practicing. And it was just this is what I do. It wasn't like I was like, oh, well, do I want to do this or that or this or that? I think, musicians, after you've played for a certain number of years, you really kind of know, well, would I rather do something else? Because then this takes a back seat, or do I want to continue to be this OCD musician who, stops to take a bite of food and then keeps practicing? I mean,
not to interrupt you, but you had a lot going on in your life then too.
Yeah.
And I think that was also coloring a lot of your decisions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm like, who's interviewing me?
no, but
No, it's very much a conversation. So feel free anytime.
But I think that's something that would offer a little bit of context to where you were in your life then, unless you don't. I mean, your mom was ill.
Yeah, she was sick. Well, she was sick for 10 years.
Yeah. So and when she passed, you were going deep into that, but then you lost your mojo.
Oh yeah. I quit playing for 5 years.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I saw that then that was after Manhattan School of Music.
Yeah.
You quit playing for 5 years after that.
Yeah, and it was I just felt like I was lost. And I was.
Clearly, you found the path back. That's for certain.
Yeah, but how did you do that? Because I find that to be one of the most fascinating parts of your story.
Well, because it was presented as a hobby. So I was dabbling in different things. I'd done a little bit of modeling here and there, temping, just, waiting tables. And so...
Health food store.
Yeah, I was waiting tables. Actually, this is when I waited tables at Uno's.
Hot coffee.
I learned that spinacules don't sit well with me, and then kind of blew up a little. But a few of the guys that were waiting tables with me, they said, "Hey, we heard that you play some sort of a horn." I was like, "Well, I did," and they said, "Well, we're putting together a funk band." Like, okay, that's fun for you, but they asked if I would want to play. I said, well, I don't know if I can.
Was that the hockey jersey dudes?
No, that was next. That was separate. I've been in a lot of
jersey dudes. That sounds intriguing.
I was a figure skating horn. Thank you.
But it was. It was
a hockey band.
But you did like an ESPN2 show or something.
Oh yeah.
Right?
We played it at Madison Square Garden. I mean, It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this little funk band got me out of my funk, I guess.
Wow. That's cool. That's a great story. Thanks, David, for...
I know.
It would make a little richer.
Yeah. David, how about that? We were talking a little bit about Eastman, but I know that's where I became aware of you from the first time was when you were working on your master's at Eastman and that experience and others.
I went to college at the University of Central Oklahoma right out of high school, and they had recruited me because similar to my... University of Central Oklahoma at the time was called Central State University.
Okay.
The name changed maybe a year or two after I started attending. And they had the premier jazz program in the state. And when I say jazz program, I mean big band. Mm-hmm. It was more about an ensemble situation. It wasn't a big jazz theory school or a jazz writing school. Okay. But when I was coming out of high school, I decided that I was interested in writing. And so I just started, senior year in high school, I said, I'm going to write something. So I started off writing like trombone quartets and then started writing for big band. And my senior year, we played one of my charts on the concert, and it was ridiculous. I didn't have any clue what I was doing. But then I went to school, to college, and my freshman year in college, I overlapped with a saxophonist named Vince Norman, who you may know that name. Mm-hmm. And Vince, later, he went and became the staff arranger for the Jazz Ambassadors. But he laid Ray Wright's book on me and talked me through it. And I would go to his house and hang out. And so that was really how I started writing. And writing is what got me to Eastman. Certainly, I think Bill Dobbins, wanted to have another trombonist in the program. But I think what got me in is submitting my scores, and I was Fred Sturm's TA for the 2 years that I was there.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And we all know Rochester winters really suck. Seeing 2 feet of snow on the ground in October was a little bit of a, that was discouraging. to say the least.
Don't get me started, Dave.
Yeah, I know.
I'm from California.
Let's not.
I'm still trying to get over that.
I'm looking
winter.
outside and seeing the snow out here, and I'm like, oh man, we don't have that
Right,
in Chelsea.
right.
This is wild.
Yeah, it's weird.
But so I think that I really got passionate about being a writer. And I never trusted myself because I taught myself everything. So when I got to Eastman, it was an opportunity. Like, I was the TA, but I was auditing the class that I was the TA for, basically. You know, like I was able to create something that was competent, but I had no idea what I was doing. So to go there and kind of learn the nomenclature and vernacular and to have a sense of a direction to what techniques are, that was very helpful. And so that's really, I think that was the bulk of what I got out of my Eastman experience, other than just being in Rochester and playing music with reggae bands and salsa bands and rock bands and being able to really dip my toe in the water in a lot of different highly competent situations. That was very helpful. Yeah.
Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about your guys' early experiences in New York. And I think I can remember, even as old as I am, I can remember back when the terror that I had when I first got to New York, and just like, how is this possibly going to work?
Yeah,
You know?
right.
But anyway, yeah, everybody has their own path, and we all get to where we're going. But I was specifically kind of interested in influences that people had on you who might have helped you, memorable gigs that you felt like, sounds like your funk band like pulled you out of that and drew you to being a professional in New York. But anything about those early years as being as a professional musician in New York that strike you?
How about when your mom came to visit you and she?
Oh God!
That was when
My first apartment in Washington Heights. My mom drove in, and so
Wait, I thought she took the bus.
No.
She drove. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
she drove, and so she comes up to the apartment. You know, it's a typical Washington Heights apartment. It was huge. You know, we had 3 musicians living there. It was like crazy how big it was. I, of course, had basically a converted closet as a room because it was so cheap.
Junior.
And she goes, so I think I just walked by and saw a homeless couple having sex in the bus station, because she, you know, parked her car and walked by, and she's like, oh, wow. Yeah. And I was,
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was amazed that she didn't say, okay, pack your stuff, we're going home, you know.
Right,
She was like, well, enjoy your life here in New York, you know, like that's what it is. Yeah.
Wow, that is it.
Yeah.
That sums up the beginnings of New York for about as well as you can.
Yeah.
But you know,
totally.
you grew up in Jersey, and so
Well, we used to come into the city.
yeah.
And I knew I wanted to live here. I hated growing up in Jersey.
Oh, really? Okay.
But we were also really poor. So it's not like I had a nice house or nice things or, you know. But every time I came to the city, I don't know. I liked being surrounded by people, because first of all, I still have this thing where when we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, my brain starts thinking there are wild animals and serial killers.
Yeah, right.
And this is me on the road. I'm like, you guys better put your dressers in front of the doors tonight. This town is a little too sleepy for me.
Every time I play a gig somewhere and I'll send her a picture, oh, look at this, it's beautiful, we're out in the wilderness, and she was like, they'll never hear you scream out there.
It's true though, right?
Not to be alarming, but if you see, we do have a lot of wild animals that walk through here, but you're safe on the serial killer front.
Right,
so far we're good.
right.
None of those
All
in
right,
this city.
Excellent news. Yeah, but you know,
Statistics
maybe
are
you just
supporting
don't know. Yeah. I just knew every time we came in. And of course, you know, New York was not a friendly place in the 70s and even in the 80s.
For sure.
But boy, you know, I loved the energy. I learned, you know, what weed smelled like really young.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? My mom's like, you know, and you'd walk by, you know, junkies and stuff, and I just felt like I could really make a home here. Or in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just-
I mean, there's no question that
in me.
the energy outweighs the other stuff most of the time.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, definitely.
How about for you, David?
I never thought I would be able to move to New York as a kid. And then Clark Terry used to do a summer program at my college in Oklahoma. And, so I got to know the cats and his band because they would come.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done an Aebersold camp, and I got on my flight back to go to Oklahoma to do Clark's camp, where I was, since I was a student, I was also a counselor working my way through the camp. So I get on my flight home, and I'm in a middle seat because, we saved money on that ticket. And this guy gets in my row, and he's sitting in the window seat, so I have to get up and let him in the window seat. And I said, "Excuse me, are you Marcus McLaren?" And he goes like, "What?" And so he talked to me the entire trip and told me about how much money he saved before he came to New York, and that how he was encouraged to make the move, and it softened me up a little bit on it. But then I went to Eastman after that, and still waited until I moved. But when I got to town, I had been working in the Rochester area with a trombonist named John Hasselback.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And John and Steve Davis were roommates, I believe, at Hart when Jackie McLean was running the program. So he said, "Here's Steve's number. Call him when you get to town. He'll tell you what to do." So I called Steve, and Steve said he was at the time on the road with Chick, and he gave me Tony Cadlick's number. And he said,
Excellent choice.
Yeah, he said, "This is Tony Cadlick. Tony, he and I know each other from, our high school days or
Right,
something.
yeah.
So call him. He'll know what to do." And Tony gave me like 30 names and numbers and said, "Call all these people. Tell them you're new in town and you want to do a rehearsal or watch a book or whatever." And so I did. And I think the first place I went was to the Union, and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on whose big band it was. Oh man, come on, trombonist. I'm just totally blanking right now. He's on that record, Sophisticated Giant, with the little big band with Slide and Dex. Man, come on, writer. I'm totally blanking right now. Anyway,
We'll think of it.
Yeah, we'll think of it. So he sees me sitting out there, and very, I have my horn. It's very kind. And then there was a trumpet player who didn't show up, and he says like, "Oh, well, you could come up and read the fourth trumpet book." I was like, "Yeah, why did I do that?" So I get set up. I'm going to read the fourth trumpet book. In walks Andy Gravish. "Sorry, I'm late, cats." So now I'm like, okay, well, take the horn apart, And so he says, no, come on up front. You're going to play my part on this. And I played a feature with the band, and then I went and sat down. Yeah, it was very sweet.
Yeah.
And, I met a lot of people like that. And I mean, it's a very different environment than I find myself in now, but boy, that was really helpful and then just going to sessions, he told me to go to Cleopatra's Needle. That's what Steve told me. He says, "My man John Farnsworth runs a session there. Joe Farnsworth is there, and go and introduce yourself to them." So I did, and then that's how I met a lot of people. Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool story. Yeah, and for all the rap that New Yorkers get, I think there's a lot of kindness there that comes out, at good times like that. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Kind of moving forward now. I want to talk about you guys, what I consider to be the incredible range of versatility in both of your guys' careers. And it was really enjoyable researching and looking at all the things that you guys have accomplished and done in preparation of this interview. But it seems to me you guys have both figured out the blueprint of being a modern musician, and a modern, for you especially, Kiku, a modern artist. You're more than a musician. But maybe I guess the question I'm trying to figure out the best way to ask it, but I guess really what I'm asking is, was that part of your plan all along? And also, how do you do that? How do you look at it in terms of, well, today I'm an actress, tomorrow I'm a trumpet player, and you can address the ordained minister part if you like, but I'm really talking more about being a trumpet player, an actress, dancer, all the different hats that you end up wearing, and I'll have the same thing for you, David, in a slightly different.
The dancer answer will be different from me.
Very. I don't know that I think of anything as being separate.
Okay.
The reason I had to learn how to dance was getting the Beyonce gig. I was terrified and I was crying in my hotel room and I slept like 30 minutes every night because I was just like, I need to figure this out and I can't play and move and I can't even dance. How am I going to play? It was terrifying. It was a week of that, of me fighting myself. But
You're good at it though.
Yeah, I figured it out because I had to. And I came home from that first job and that was the BET Awards. And I thought, I can't accept this gig. I'm going to tell them that was it. Thanks for the memories. I'm going back to whatever I do. But then I just thought, well, but this is a big chance that, I was, I guess, kind of over the hill to be starting a career like that. But I also felt like I was well, first of all, I had a child to support, and not a lot to support her with.
And that was also a part of the dynamic with that gig was how much you were away as well.
Oh yeah.
Just for context,
difficult.
what year was this that you started with Beyonce?
2006.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was my first gig with Beyonce. I flew to LA on the day of her preschool graduation.
Oh.
So I went to her
Beyonce's
graduation.
preschool graduation.
Right. I went there with this. I didn't know
Thank you for clearing that up, David. Thank you.
Just helping out where I
Excellent
can.
point. But I didn't know how to pack back then. So I had this. I don't know what the heck I brought because I almost never check a bag now, and of course I'm carrying my horn, so there's not much I can bring. But I had this huge suitcase, and I dragged it to her graduation, and I was so proud and I'm crying, and then I'm like in a cab onto the airport because I need to work, because I need to pay, I have to, I'm a homeowner.
You're better at it now though.
Thanks. So basically I had to learn how to dance, and I really for some reason, and probably because I didn't keep up with a lot of pop music, it didn't occur to me that I would have to move.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so used to being in a booth. I was so used to recording for so many years. And, you could roll, you didn't have to brush your hair. It didn't, nothing mattered as long as you could play the part. And so, yeah, that was kind of a big shock to me. And, I was busy. I was recording the first album, and I was just like, I guess I'll go do this gig because, they want me for it. And,
But what about the hanging upside down thing?
That's a
How'd that
separate
happen?
issue.
How'd that even happen?
Wow, we're jumping the timeline.
Oh,
This
I didn't know. I thought
was-
that was around the same time.
Actually, well, it wasn't during. It was
Yeah.
after I left the gig, because basically,
This is perfect. This husband and wife thing.
Is
in the
it
interview.
though?
I love it. This is great. This is what we've been missing on Bone2Pick. This finally we got
right,
it.
only couples from now on.
Yeah, we're gonna do the newlywed game.
Oh, God.
Bob Eubanks.
Yeah, so one day, the tour manager, I think, came in and he said, okay, you're not going to be home for 10 months. It's like,
Wow.
that's not going to
Okay.
include me. I can't. It was impossible. It was really hard to juggle everything as it was.
Mhm.
And we were rehearsing down the street from my apartment, so that was very helpful. I found a local woman to watch my daughter, and so sort of like a part-time flexible nanny situation, because what else could I do?
Mhm.
But yeah, once that hit, I was like, I gotta go. So we left, it was great terms. I've worked with her since then.
Several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the old
He's like my fact checker. You know, so I mean,
So a lot of it has come from just necessity is the mother of invention. You just
every time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Right.
my gosh. Well, right. So then, you know, I do some things as a band leader. Not my favorite thing.
Okay.
I don't like being in charge like that. I mean, I like being charged sometimes, but boy, when I'm on stage, I just
She does
want
like
to
being in
play.
charge sometimes.
Yeah.
I just want to play.
Happy wife, happy life. You know what they say.
You know, I have no complaints, but she definitely knows how to be in charge,
Yeah, I guess so.
and I like it.
That's good.
Go ahead.
Remember that. So, so you know, I'm doing some things as a band leader. I mean, it worked fine, but it didn't make me happy. And then I got a call from Michael Bolton, and I'm saying, well, you know, I kind of have a little PTSD from juggling my life for so long. My daughter, and I was just like, I'm just getting back into a rhythm with her. And I said, well, you know, just I guess send me the contract and I'll look at it. And they said, we don't have a contract. It's like, you don't have a, what do you mean? They said, well, we call you for gigs and then you come or you don't, you know, and if you keep showing up, I mean, obviously, you know, you'll have priority, but if you don't take a gig and someone else takes the gig and it works out with them, you know, that's your choice, but it might go away like that. And, you know, so I was like, all right, I guess, you know, the first thing was like 2 weeks. I said, okay, I can do that. So I go for two, you know, I get on the plane. I don't even know where the heck we were. And, so I get there and I'm thinking, okay, cool. You know, there's actual music this time. There wasn't music on the Beyonce gig. You had to learn everything just by listening. And we actually had our books on stage. And at some point, I remember saying, no, I don't need to stand anymore. And they actually had me put a stand there because it looked weird that I didn't have
course,
music.
yeah.
You know, I was like,
Right.
but I don't want to look at my charts anymore. It's distracting me. So I get there and it's cool, you know, sound check, whatever. Yeah, let's run over some tough spots here. There's a change here, blah, blah, blah. And then I find out I'm like, oh, you're singing backup too. I was like, well, okay, that's fun. So I'm like scrambling to learn all of these lyrics.
And how to sing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I had dabbled in it, but it was very different because I'm like, but people are listening to me now. This is
Right,
different, you know? And then, oh, we have these moves. I was like, all right, I can dance, but this is a lot. And I just flew in today and the gig is tonight, like in 2 hours, and we still have to eat dinner and get ready. And so, I mean, the horn section, Jessie she was great, and we're still friends. We still work together once in a while. So we're sitting there at dinner, and I'm writing notes in my because of course it was paper back then. I had a binder, and I'm writing all these notes, and I literally was just like reading the music, reading the lyrics, reading my weird dance cues that I had somehow illustrated in my book.
Oh, her little crib notes
Hilarious.
are really great.
Yeah.
There should be like just it looks like a doodle book. It doesn't actually look like anything that you would know what the hell it was.
Right, and that's why my gigs are safe.
Yeah. Right.
Because, oh, here's my book. What is the smiley face with the wing? You should know these things.
It's like you can
know?
write it on the inside of your hand. And
I've done that. I've done like an entire night of music with some one-off band on one piece of paper. Like color-coded. And
I love it.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
You got to
man.
get a
Just gotta-
system
you
together.
gotta get through the gig. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it so many times. But yeah, so I had to learn how to do all that stuff. And I remember, you know, the 2 weeks was done and I thought, well, everyone seems happy with me, but I don't know if they're ever going to call me. And I just kept getting called. And I think that went on for like 4 years, 5 years. I don't even remember now. It's all a blur.
Nice. Well,
So-
good gig. And,
But you know, you get forced
obviously-
into these things.
It's not surprising, but it sounds like you pick things up extremely fast, and you're quick.
Yeah,
And to me, that's always been the
I don't know if
part
it's,
of the equation.
Yeah, well,
I
that's
think it's
not for
more
you
of
to
a
say.
neuroticism.
Yeah, well, that too.
You know,
too.
like it's not like I look at something like, okay, I got this.
Right.
No, it's like, okay, keep doing it, keep listening to the same
Yeah.
thing over and over and over
Well,
and
you
over.
know how to practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Good stuff, and kind of a lot of good advice in there at the same time. David, for yourself, different parameters, but same idea. You know, you talked about the trombone, and then you talked about
Right.
your interest and passion for writing and arranging.
Right.
But also band leading has become an important part of your career, and
Yeah.
what people associate with. How do
Well,
you look at it?
You know, I'm trying to remember what year it was. I can't remember, but I started out subbing with this little big band called the George G. Swing Orchestra. And I became friendly with the vocalist in the band, who's a remarkable person, really interesting, eclectic interests, and good at everything he does, you know, because once again, he knows how to practice. And so, you know, we hit it off, and he asked me if I would write some charts for him for the band. So I did. And one thing led to another. And eventually there was an opening in the musical director position for the band. And George said, "Would you want to do this?" I said, "Really? I mean, oh, okay." Because what I saw was, man, this is a really familial environment. It's a band that swings hard and plays the blues. And there were certain people who were in mentorship roles in my life that were in that band. It was just such a welcome opportunity to learn. And so I learned how to write a lot better because I started trying to write a feature for every person in the band. And as I started doing that stuff, it taught me a lot about the dynamics of a culture. And I didn't trust myself at the time, but I started reading a lot, and I'm very fascinated by the group dynamic when it's successful and what that is.
Yeah.
And so as I started digging a little bit deeper into the gig and learning more, I started realizing how to create that environment and how to treat people. And I've hopefully gotten a lot better at that. And so I just have become even more infatuated with the idea of writing and trying to, I guess, figure out what I have to offer a situation that I feel like I can do something that can add to what's going on. Whereas I think when I was younger, I was trying to do something that would be impressive rather than doing something that would add to the situation. Not always the same thing, you know, because a lot of times, because like the highlight reel is usually not the guy who set a pick.
Exactly.
You know? And so I decided to try and be more like that. And I really enjoyed the results, you know. And so now, when we were in lockdown, primarily like from about November of 2020, when it got cold again and you couldn't really go outside anymore, we started doing little Friday night hangs at our apartment, and I taught myself how to tune our piano badly.
Not so bad.
Pretty bad.
There were some fun moments of frustration to
Oh,
observe.
goodness, yeah. Me tuning a piano.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So, but I had a core of musicians who were already kind of in my realm that I could call to play gigs, and I just started writing more music, and trying to offer something to our little family of musicians. And then when things started breaking around in April and May, I just started asking for gigs. So now I have, you know, several venues that I can play with the band. And man, we have a lot of reps. The band has a lot of reps. You know, it's all original music, and I have kind of a repertoire of probably like 25 tunes that we are all original tunes that we can play different sets every time we play. And everybody knows the music, and I have maybe 2 or 3 people on each instrument that are part of the family that came over and hung out with us on Friday nights. And yeah, so I mean, that's been honestly, I enjoy all of that, and it's really about the sense of community, and it's about being having a purpose. Like that first night that I played on Memorial Day weekend with our band, and it was a Friday night, and it was like, oh man, here we are. We're doing our Friday night, but now there's people here.
Yeah.
And everybody was so amped for live music. I mean, we've
Sure.
all seen it, you know. It's like, I was like, man, and we're playing my original music, and they're loving it, not because they know it, but because we're a band. I mean, that's like a totally different thing. It's not, nobody's up there going like, check out how I can make these changes. Listen to this. Oh, this little cute thing that I've been practicing for the last 6 months. Man, you're really going to dig this. You know, it wasn't any of that. These people didn't give a shit about that. You know, it was just like, I just go up and I say, hey, y'all, just so you understand right now, I know, how many jazz fans do we have in here? You know, you go out and hear jazz all the time. It's like, you know, crowded room. But then I said, all right, well, let me just tell you this. Anybody watch basketball? Yeah, you watch it on TV. You've been to a game live. Which is better? Which is better? So you are on the sidelines at Madison Square Garden watching two really good teams play. And you're watching that level of improvisation. And so hopefully you'll behave in the same manner you do at Madison Square Garden. and actually, you know, I think somebody told me that recently, they were like, dude, you told the people to release the woos. Because I'm like, hey, you know, it feels good. And if you offer us a view into something that you like, you're more than likely going to get another helping of the same thing. And so, man, these shows have just been visceral. I have thoroughly enjoyed leading a band, not because I'm the best person, but because I'm the one who keeps the calendar and books the gigs and contracts the gigs and writes the music. But once we get up there, it's a band, and the reflection from the crowd to me is it's very nourishing.
Wow. Are you guys planning a live record perhaps at some point, or?
Man, that would be a great idea, but we're not. But we are. We don't have a solid date. We had a solid date, and then the Omicron dance moved through, and we had to not play that.
Right.
And so, you know, just keeping everybody's schedules together has been a little bit rough to find a time to go back in the studio, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
I'm
look
looking
forward to
yeah.
checking that out. If we can just totally shift, if you don't mind, Kiku, your story is so inspiring of what you went through, and I didn't know the full length of it till I started looking into researching for this interview. As much as you feel comfortable and much as you'd like to share with us, I think it would be wonderful for our listeners to hear what you had to go through and the amazing perseverance and inspiration that you give all of us for seeing what happened to you.
You dig?
Well, I don't know what I give to anybody, but
I do.
so I have been a breast cancer patient for 9.5 years. Yeah.
2012.
Because I was
It
diagnosed
was August of 2012.
right after our wedding.
Yeah.
And it's been really crazy. You know, of course, when it first started happening, we just gotten married, and I was heading out to do an acting / playing gig out in the Hamptons,
Sag Harbor.
Okay.
So
Got those tan lines.
yeah, I do. Sitting in the backyard reading books because I had nothing else to do. So you know, I mean, most people think, oh, well, that's near Manhattan, but it's really not. And
Yeah.
there's one bus that
Yeah.
you can take for hours and hours and hours. I mean, you feel like you're on a very uncomfortable plane. This is my take on it.
Yeah.
And so before I left, my doctor mentioned to me that I was a little bit, you know, I had to schedule my mammogram a little bit late, like by a week or two. I don't know. It was really close. And I said, okay, so I'm doing this gig for like 6 weeks, so I'll deal with it when I get back home. And she said, well, no, you should probably just get in there now. And of course, whenever your doctor says, don't wait 6 weeks to do something, your brain starts to go, and then you tell your brain to shut up. But so I booked the appointment, went, had it done. Okay, went out to Sag Harbor. And so basically every week during that time, and keep in mind that we had basically a Broadway schedule. So we only had one day off a week.
Okay.
And I'm hours and hours away from home. But every week they would call me and say, we need to run some more tests. I'm like, but I have one day off. You don't even know. Like, this is exhausting. So every week I would get back on that bus, come back to the city, go see another doctor, be like, poked by a needle or run through some, radioactive something or other. And then by the time the gig was almost up, and of course he was in Brazil for 3 weeks during that time. Was it 3 weeks? Something
Maybe
like that.
two,
I don't
two.
know. But, this was back in the day where it still cost a fortune, or it was hard to get on Skype. And
No, we were doing
it was not really, though, but you were always in the lobby with your guys.
Yeah, well, I didn't have my own device.
Yeah. So he'd be, hey, how's it going? What
Yeah,
am I going
we
to
couldn't
say?
talk, yeah.
So I didn't tell him the extent of what was going on.
Okay.
I didn't find out until
Yeah.
I got home.
Yeah. So then, when I finally got the call, after
You were
all
out
this
there and I
test,
was home.
you were home.
Yeah.
And I was in the gym because there was not much to do out there. So I would either be in the gym or at the gig or sitting in the backyard of this little house that I was staying in and reading a book. So I'm just sitting on a bike and I see my doctor's calling me. I thought, okay, I don't know. I mean, I guess I should pick up because I have no excuse. I have to pick up. I'm not doing anything,
Yeah.
I'm bored out of my skull. So I pick up and she tells me, she's like, you have, invasive ductal carcinoma. I was like, and I'm going, what the hell does that mean? And it started to dawn on me. And then, and I hear her and she's like, are you okay? I was like, I gotta go. Click, and I'm like, nah, everything starts to, and I'm like back in the locker room and I'm like, big sunglasses. And,
Hey, can I just interject one thing, sweetheart?
what?
That this is the same cancer that your mom had.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why her mom was sick for 10 years.
You
Right.
had lived it in a certain kind of way.
Yes.
Right.
In another,
She's now involved in the same story that she lived through on the other side.
right.
Yeah. I just thought that was worth.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Yeah, it's good.
Good looking out. Next time on Brass Couples. So somehow I make it back to the house and I'm just like I'm a mess. And then I call him.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember
that's all that comes
I
out.
sprinted home. I remember because I sprinted home like I have to pack a bag and go to where she is. I got to figure this out.
And I'm yelling at him, don't sub your gigs.
Yeah, I sub my
That's what I
gigs.
can get that out, but I can't say I have cancer.
Oh, no.
You
I was
know.
subbing all my gigs. And I was
You
like
sub-
calling everybody.
No, you didn't sub that night.
You told me I couldn't.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would divorce
So
you.
I came the next morning.
Yeah, I told him. I
didn't
said,
think I
that's
was
it,
going to
we're
be able to
done.
get a bus that night.
Yeah,
anyway.
the
I
buses
couldn't- I
were
couldn't
few
get
and
out
far
there.
between.
Yeah, but I subbed.
But I
everything
was
else
just
out.
like, don't do this. There's enough bad crap going on. I don't
But
need
I
you.
brought a bunch of weed with me, so
Yes,
that when we
you
got
did.
there, I got her super high. I
Oh my
remember
God.
she was a kid. We were at this
Doctor's
cast-
orders and so
Yeah,
forth.
we were at this cast party, and she
I
was
didn't even want to
catatonic.
go.
She was
I
just
did
like,
not want to go to this party. I was like, I just want to go and feel
I was like,
sorry
baby,
for
we're
myself.
going to the party.
So we're like walking through,
It was very dark.
It was
wooded,
super.
yeah.
Yeah, all the serial killers were out there, by the way.
Yeah.
And and the wild animals that were gonna, tear us apart. But yeah, so he gets me really high. We're at the cast party, and I'm sitting outside.
It's basically me and the
The director's on one
director.
side, he's on the other side, and then people are everywhere, and I'm
And
sitting
Lilia's-
here.
Yeah, you weren't doing too much.
And I was trying to listen to what they were talking. It was
No, it was the
political.
best. It was the best way for you to be.
And I was like pretending like I'm
Yeah.
like trying to, but I can't move.
No, she's not good with that substance. But
No.
but
I've
so
gotten better.
yeah, but I mean practice.
But
You
yeah,
have good
no.
practice.
But yeah, and I didn't realize that I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was just like covered I just felt nothing.
But I didn't want to set you off on that. Why don't you?
Yeah, I don't
How-
remember. You derailed me.
Yeah.
What was once you got through that horrible
The
thing,
phone
I can't imagine that and plenty of people are cameraman Kent's wife.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
went through the
Right.
same horror, and I have tremendous compassion for anybody who goes through that. So once you gathered yourself and started treatments, what was that process? How long did that last? And
You should tell him also the lead up to we were going to see the doctors to talk about what was going to happen, but you
I
had
had
gigs
so
scheduled.
much big stuff booked.
You had one of those White House events?
No, it
it
wasn't
was
White
the
House
Kennedy
yet.
Center.
Yeah, Kennedy
Yeah.
Center. I had a BET thing that was being
Right,
filmed.
right.
I was going to Brazil, right? I think I went to Brazil.
Yeah, so
And it was all happening.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting
but
there.
it
with
couldn't have been
the
more
surgeon.
perfectly scheduled,
No.
to be honest.
Well, I was terrified. I was like, we have to go to, like tomorrow, right? We have to get this thing out. What is it? I had 3
Right.
tumors.
What was the doctor's name? What was his
Dr.
name?
Mills. He passed away.
He did. He was so
Oh,
great.
I used to. Well, I didn't call him to his face, but I did refer to him as my Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley. Yeah. But you also got that graphic novel from Hendrick,
Yes.
and it's called
My guitar
Cancer
player
Vixen,
sent me this book, and I was like,
and it's a graphic novel about a woman's experience.
that
and
looks
her
like
doctor
Dr. Mills.
That
is Dr. Mills.
Yeah, it was him. I called him on the phone. It was
Yeah.
when you were still recovering. 'Cause
yeah.
that was.
Yep.
Was that Hurricane
Yes.
Sandy? Was that what
I
that
think it was
was?
Sandy. Yeah, I was recovering during Sandy.
And so they had to close the hospital because of flooding.
Right.
So we had to go to a different hospital to meet with him so that he could check her out.
Yeah, it was all
But
crazy.
you did all that work, and then
Yeah, I did tons of work. I had no time to think.
and then
which was
watched
the
all these TV
best.
shows while she had
Yeah, I'm
an
like, I got
expander
drains,
in and
and
drains
like,
on,
I'm
and
a
was
mess.
like at
I
home
can't
watching
sit up
him
on my
TV.
own, And so people, I'm getting texts and messages like, "That's amazing. Have a great time."
Yeah,
like I'm
right.
there.
Yeah.
Like
Great.
that was a month ago, and I'm half dead.
Yeah. But you were also very close to the vest about who knew what was going on.
Yeah,
You didn't
because
tell
people
anyone.
are brutal. People are
For
brutal,
sure,
and they'll say, "Oh, that's so terrible," and then they'll pick up the phone and call people to find out who books your seat, and try to get that because they know that you're sick. So I didn't tell anybody. I had just started playing with Gloria Gaynor. I Will Survive, ironically. I didn't tell them. I didn't know them well enough. I thought, oh my God, they're going to replace me. I just kind of got into this gig, and they love me.
You did post-surgery gigs with them.
Yeah. Oh, I did.
You did
I did.
holodelic post-surgery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What if I don't mean to jump too far ahead? What was the situation that you experienced with your arm in terms of you?
Oh, this thing? Lymphedivas. It's something that happens to a good percentage of breast cancer patients. And it's not talked about a lot. Doctors don't really seem to learn a lot about the lymph system. They spend like a couple of hours in medical school on the lymph system, which is so important. But I had 6 nodes removed, and they all had cancer in them. And I had radiation. So my arm now, it's hard to explain. Like the lymph doesn't flow. Like he pumps my lymph at night.
Can I?
It's not some weird.
Here's how
couples
I understand it.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have these hubs where you have patches of tons of lymph nodes, right? But the lymphatic system is running under the skin all through the entire body. But then you have these spots, like we know as kids, if I have a strep throat,
Right.
my lymph nodes get swollen.
Get
I
them.
can feel that, right?
Right,
So the thing is these nodes, I look at them, the way I think of it is that they're like, it's like the exits on a highway system. So some people can have 10, 20 nodes removed and have no problem. But it's like closing the wrong exit on the highway. If that exit is the wrong exit, then now you have a traffic
Everything gets
jam.
backed up.
And so the lymphatic system will start backing up, and the arm will swell. And
okay.
you see it, honestly, since you've been dealing with this,
You see it a
I
lot.
see it all the time now.
You see it in legs.
And I see it undiagnosed in people.
Yes. You
a
can
lot
tell
of times,
when they don't know.
yeah, they don't know that that's what they have.
Yeah.
And so the compression helps a little bit, but I do.
It doesn't reduce, but it helps to maintain.
But I do
Okay.
a manual lymph drainage that we learned at her therapist's
Physical
office.
therapy.
Wow, okay.
And so I do. It starts with you start, you
Yeah.
massage here, and then you massage under the arm, and then you massage in the pelvic area, and then you start to move the
So you're
fluid down,
manually
move the
pumping
fluid
it.
down.
Wow, it's really
and
interesting.
Then, and then you do the same thing here. You have to squeeze and
get
then
in there.
and it's about, it's not like rubbing.
No,
it's
it's
more
very
like it's
light.
like a pump. You're just moving like a pump, and you're
Yeah.
pumping the fluid away from the end of the extremity, and then you have to come to the
Yeah,
fingers and do
because
each
if not,
finger.
and that's why the gauntlet and some people wear a glove,
Uh-huh.
because it'll pool in your hand.
But we do hers almost every night.
Yeah, I have a pump too, like an electric one.
So hers
But
is
this is better.
Hers is totally manageable.
Right, and I
Other
also
people
work
have
out every
issues.
day. That's a big part of it.
And
too.
obviously, it's your left hand. That's
Yeah.
the hand you hold your trumpet in,
Yeah,
and the arm
that's
that
the weight
supports
bearing.
Yeah.
So how I know that must have presented
Yeah.
challenges as well.
Well,
just
I
holding
had
the horn.
yeah, I had these pipes. You know, Josh Landris.
Sure.
So he made these pipes that would screw onto the bottom of my valves, and I would hold it with that, so that we were trying to figure out a way that I could continue doing this, because my arm would just start to throb after 10 minutes. And so that helped a lot, and I used those for years. Since then, I've gotten away from them. My new horn's a little bit lighter.
But you
And
still practice.
I do
you have-
practice. I got one of those ergo brass things. So like, in the studio, I mean, the little stick hits the chair, and I can do that, and I can kind of like, just, I mean, this,
Use your arm for-
yeah.
So
So
on the
it's-
gigs you don't use them.
on the gigs
you
I
use
don't.
anything anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, if the gig, my gigs aren't like 20 hours like yours.
Yeah,
They
she's
feel
playing
like
a
20.
90-minute set.
Right, but a lot of times I'll just hang my arm down or whatever. I always bring I didn't always used to bring my stand. Now I always bring it, and I
Dance
set it
around.
down, and I dance around, and that pumps my lymph. So, I mean, you figure it out.
Necessity, she had to learn to dance to help with lymphedema.
Right. This all goes back to Beyonce. She taught me how
Finally
to
we
take
figured
care of
it
my
out.
arm.
I just like to tidy up the circle.
And I did a lot of these claps with Michael Bolton. So
Yeah.
So you're coming up on 10 years then. So
Yeah,
that
almost
this
10
has got to be
years.
kind of a good feeling. I mean,
guess- I mean,
looking back on it,
it's kind of the same for
Yeah.
me. It's not that different
It's
from
vigilance,
like a
definitely.
year in. You know what I mean? Like, and I do know a lot of people that kind of lighten up on themselves as time goes on, because they think, oh well, I'm further away from that initial horrible thing, and I just want to kind of wipe it out.
Kiku is not lightened up on herself.
No, I'm like, every day something's changing with our diet.
Hey, when
and
I moved
exercise.
in, Kiku was the first person I ever saw who had a soundproof booth in the apartment. It's in our living room.
Yeah,
All right.
it's pretty
Wow.
sweet.
And so she would get up at 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the
I
morning.
used to wake up early back then.
Get up at 5:30 in the morning, wake Tani up for school. While Tani's getting ready for school, she's in the booth practicing. I'm still
Like, brush your
I'm
teeth.
still in bed from getting home from my late gig, and I can hear her in there doing her Chickawitz studies, and I'm like, I suck. I'm the laziest person I've ever met. So she definitely is always like cranking to try and lift the level up and learn more. definitely,
I'm
always.
also trying to not make a fool out of myself.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
you've accomplished that. That's for
about
sure.
all that.
so far it's going pretty good.
Depends on who you speak to.
Thanks for sharing that, and I know you probably have to share it a lot, but
It's fine,
but it's
though.
really inspiring, and it gives a lot all of us, no matter what you're dealing with health wise, and when you go through something like that, and you've clearly come out the other side an even stronger and better musician in person, and so thank you. We appreciate you talking about that.
I'll add just a little addendum to that, because her experience was really educational for me in a particular way. I remember the night that I showed up to the gig where I was the MD, and I left her at home. I had to help her drain all the tubes and dump all the blood,
So
and
gross.
I don't know if anybody's ever done that.
Did we have to
Probably.
measure it?
I don't remember.
I
But
think we had to measure it or something too.
yeah, you had to know how
Report
much
back.
was in,
Like,
because
why do you
they
wanna know?
they looked like those little
So
little
gross.
semi-transparent like bubbles, like almost an egg-shaped
And
plastic
they were just
bubble.
hanging.
And they were hanging from these tubes that were going inside, right? And so you have to unattach them, dump the fluid out, and reattach them. And so I'm doing that, and I'm walking to the gig. So I'm leaving home. I'm on the sidewalk, walking to the train, and I'm completely overwhelmed and thinking, like, should I be leaving? Should I be doing what I'm about to do? And then I get to the gig, and I'm the MD. And I'm still there in my mind. I'm still at that spot. And so here we are on the bandstand, and I'm really distracted. Like, I don't deserve to enjoy this experience while she's at home. And so then the wheels started coming off on the band, because everyone's keying off me now.
Right.
And so I had this conversation with myself. That's your fault. You did that. You're making a mess here because you're not taking care of what people need from you here, and you can't do anything for her right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there. So I said, all right, from now on, I'm not doing that. Because what happened is, after that experience, I go home with my battery lower when I could have walked home and had my battery charged and shared the
Right.
charge with her.
Because I can't sit up on my own.
But I didn't allow
You know,
myself
like-
to enjoy
Yeah.
and to be invigorated and energized by that experience, which basically this is why I moved to New York, was to do this. And now I'm not letting myself do this. So I said, no, you're not doing that anymore, because people depend on you, and you have money in the bank to share with her that she needs, because she can't do that for me. She can't make me feel better right now. So that was the big lesson that I learned from that whole experience.
What a great lesson, and what a great. It's great for you to come to that realization, and I think it speaks to all of us as just being in the moment, and even when you're dealing with such adversity like that.
Absolutely.
But being in the moment is.
Yes.
I think that's not to put words in your mouth, but I think it's partially of what you're trying to say.
absolutely, absolutely. And I know what you just said. I know it way better than I've ever known it as a result of this pandemic.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
A lot of introspection.
Well, we're on the other side of this pandemic, hopefully, and things
I
are
hope
looking
so, too.
brighter.
I hope so, too.
What's on the horizon for you guys, project-wise, gig-wise? I'm waiting for like the list to come out now. I know you've got a million things going on.
There's a lot of pending dates on the calendar. I try not to count them, but I do have a plane ticket for tomorrow, so I
Wow,
guess that
okay.
works.
Yeah, the boss lady, Gloria Gaynor, I mean, wow, that woman is like really familial. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense, because she's still in the business.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's a real person.
Yeah.
She creates an environment. She has people who work for her that are longtime people who work for her. And she's a wonderful person and has everybody out to the house. And I'm sure you've been in environments like that. And so it's like...
Yeah, we're
you
not
meet-
any different on the road.
Yeah.
You meet someone who you heard about, and then you hang out with them, and you're like, oh, real person. Oh, wow, they're treating me like a real person. Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
great. So
Yeah.
Gloria, I mean, she's come to our apartment. We
Yeah.
go out to dinner sometimes. We go to her
Oh,
house.
nice.
I
Yeah.
did a spa day with her,
Yeah.
we do. And, when we're on the road, she's always trying to, okay, do you want to go to the top of this volcano with me? Because
Yeah.
we can do that. Like, yes, I want to go to the top of what volcano? I don't even know what city I'm in,
And I'll
but
say
yes,
this
let's do
too.
it.
She utilized the pandemic and did a lot of positive work on
Yeah.
herself.
Uh-huh.
And but she's always been working on herself.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's really
But she went
inspirational.
in. She went in. She really got herself in better shape.
Yeah.
She's been, taking. I mean, she always, she takes lessons.
Yeah.
Still, she
Wow,
practices
good for her.
every day. Yeah, she's.
I saw
No
not too long ago. I saw one of the weekend morning shows had a feature on her, and
Yeah.
it really came across that way. She's
Yeah.
very genuine,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
very
she's so
like,
sweet.
giving.
Yeah.
She's
person,
hilarious
so.
too.
Yeah, she
And-
is. She my alter ego after a few drinks is Gibbo. and I know that when I reflect on my wife, that Gibbo is not allowed to come to the party. So when we're at Gloria's house, I might have a couple of glasses of wine or something, but Gibbo's not invited, and I know it, right? Until the one time
Oh,
when
boy.
Gibbo kind of started peeking his head out a little bit, and Gloria was laughing her ass off, and I was just like, I think it's okay now.
I remember that too, and I see the two of them giggling
Oh,
in the
man.
corner. I was like, I just immediately was like, guys, I'll be right back.
I subbed,
What is going on
I
over here?
subbed on a gig, and they had this cramped dressing room for the whole band, including Gloria. I mean, I was like, wow. So I just sat like right here to Gloria, and I was just talking shit, just showing up, and that was what was happening. And Kiko's on the other side of the room. She was like,
Right, stop.
That's awesome. Well, have a great game. Where are you headed?
I'm
tomorrow?
going to Kansas,
Kansas. All right.
and then
you're going somewhere
Where am
else
I going?
too. Oh, North Carolina.
Yeah,
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Okay.
North Carolina.
it's
Well,
somewhere.
have good travels, of course. And
Thank you.
as we kind of wind down a little bit, I always like to, and you guys are the perfect people to ask this to, but there's, I think with the shift in the way the business has been in our careers, and we've seen a pretty seismic shift in and opportunities for young musicians, and it's still I still believe it's entirely possible, but it's just a very challenging road for young musicians. I think in all musicians, and you guys have overcome obviously huge challenges, and you've set the bar high in terms of inspiration and the quality of work that you both do. If you could pare it down, like what would you offer as the people who want to watching this and saying, I want to be the next Kiku Collins and the next David Gibson?
Well, listen.
Skip the
For those
cancer.
people,
You don't need that part.
yeah, Kiku and I are very similar in a lot of ways, and that is a real problem. But in terms of a sense of an ethic, right? And one of the things that I love about our relationship is that she edits my emails and I edit her emails.
True. It's true.
I'm talking about conflict resolution.
Yeah.
emails.
Not all
Okay,
of them.
yeah.
Not like, hey,
Yeah.
I'll take the gig.
Yeah, right, yeah, not
That's
that.
fine.
But if there's an issue to resolve and I throw down my thoughts or she throws down her thoughts and the other will pull all the sharp teeth out and get to what's really being communicated and what's necessary and what's clear and
what's helpful.
and remove all the unskillful punitive thoughts, right? So I think that is a key thread, I think, to certainly why Kiku is who she is, because she's loved and respected. And
Clearly, yeah.
you I talk with Orrin Evans about this a lot. We're like, every musician should have to lead a gig. If you haven't led one gig, you have no idea what's going on the other side. So that said, for young musicians, how you communicate, or when you communicate, or when you respond, it's like, make it easy for someone to call you. When I was younger, I thought I need to be the right person for every job. And as I've gotten older, I've realized, well, that's making me try and be something that doesn't really, I'm not saying don't practice skills that I don't have, but why would I ignore the skills that I do have? Why wouldn't I want to be more invested in situations that allow me to use these things that, I can get better at it. And I'm better at this than, maybe somebody else, or I'm a better fit than someone else. So, I stopped trying to think about why didn't I get that call, and think, oh, well, I'm not right for the gig. Benny Powell said to me years ago, I'm hanging in his apartment, crying to him about this breakup I had, and crying to him about how I got fired off of a gig. And he says, David, that's not for you. But there is something else that's for you, and you can't see it because you're looking back here at that thing you lost instead of out here to what's coming to you. And so just to kind of like, what did somebody ask me one time? What am I supposed to do? And I said, stop giving a shit what I think you're supposed to do.
Well, that's great.
That's a good thing to do, because frankly, the thing when you move to New York, or when it's like, if I had to live by what the 18-year-old version of me thought was going to make me happy, you find out other things make you happy. So follow that thread. I mean, life is to be enjoyed. Eddie Pazant. Yeah. Life is to be enjoyed. Why, if we didn't know that now, if we didn't know that now, what the hell are we doing?
Right. Well, and it's like, I mentioned, I think this morning, I mentioned some gigs that I had accepted, and I'm a little like, I don't know. But I took them, and I said, well, I can't be mad. I took them. Mm-hmm. I took them. I know everything that they could offer to tell me about the gigs, and I'm on them.
Yeah,
and
show up.
That's me. So I'm going to have a great time. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know what the situation is, but I could have said no. And if I had said no, I wouldn't, but I said yes. So that was my decision. They didn't force me. So when you take a gig, you have to make sure that you'll have a good time. Mm-hmm. You have to figure it out. If you're just like, no, I'm just going to be miserable, then stay home.
Well, then
because somebody else wants it.
You're me when I showed up to the gig and I didn't want to have a good time because I didn't think I deserved it, because my wife was at home with drains. Yeah. But there's all sorts of other ways that we do things like that. Like, this gig doesn't pay enough, so I'm going to treat it shitty. Yeah. Well, why would you do that?
I'm going to wear my worst, or whatever.
Why would you do a shitty job? Why do that? That's just so destructive and punitive and selfish.
Right.
Yeah.
You go in and do the best job that you can do. Right. If you don't want to do the job, then don't do it anymore.
There are people that really want and need that gig. So
100%, yeah.
Let them have it.
I love that, and I say that often. It's like, if once you say yes, you can say, if I call somebody for my band, they can say, I hate your music. I'm not going to ever play.
Yeah.
Oh,
great.
Yeah. Doesn't pay enough money for me. No problem. Yeah. That's fine.
Right.
But once you say yes, that's beautiful.
Well, I'll tell you another thing. Sometimes I do get calls from people, and they explain to me why they're not doing the gig, and I don't want to know.
Yeah, that's true. That's too much information.
Right.
Do you know?
Yeah.
There are all sorts of ways that people tell you something, and I'm like, what am I doing with this information? Now I don't want to call you
for
anymore.
Anything.
You're basically saying, don't call me for this gig again.
Yeah.
And I'll oblige you, but you're kind of not saying that.
Right.
So it's just like, you don't
Right.
have to tell everybody. I remember Ray Ricker one time, man. He called me on the phone. I had done a show, and there was some kind of issue in the pit the night before. And he called me on the phone the next day, and he says, hey, Dave, yeah. So, yeah. What happened last night? Was there something going on? And I very easily could have said, well, what do you mean? And instead, he left like a few beats of silence, and I just went like, and I would have been much better. Just like, dude, you don't even know what he's talking about. You think you know what he's talking about, but you don't know. And let him ask. Let him drive a little bit and find out what he's trying to know.
Yeah.
Because then now I'm in the position where I'm telling him everything, trying to get to the thing that he's looking for, and I'm telling him too much.
You told him everything. Now
Yeah,
you're screwed.
Yeah, I told him everything. I should have kept my mouth shut.
I didn't know about any of that.
Yeah.
That's great. I love the thing that Benny Powell told you. Like, the problem is you're looking back here instead of seeing what's in front of you.
Yeah, man, you got to look. If you go in this direction, it's best to be looking that direction. and the other thing is you don't have to take every single thing that comes to you.
Right.
I'm not saying that you want to say no, but you should say no when it's not right.
But when you say no, all you say is no. No, thank you.
Right. Yeah. I can't make that.
Right.
That's it.
I hope we can work together in the future. Even if you don't like the person, or you don't like the music, or you don't like the situation, or the money isn't good enough, don't tell them any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
because
that's
you
for
don't
you
know.
to know.
You might actually grow up and and think, oh, I kind of want to try that now.
Or maybe
I've
they
got
call you for a
night
different
off,
gig
or
that you do
whatever.
want.
Yeah. But, just thank them and, hope to see you next time.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great advice.
Yeah.
The less you give out, the better.
Yeah, totally.
Guys, this has been so awesome
Yeah,
to
thanks for having us, Mark.
have you up here, and you guys have been inspirations to all of us, and this is really great just to sit down and talk about your extraordinary career, and keep an eye. These guys both have really cool websites, and you can see what they're up to, both solo and together, and or you can just turn on the TV and see what Kiku's doing.
Yeah, what was that show?
That was
Bowl.
so. There's this show called Bowl.
Oh,
I
yeah.
played flugelhorn on the steps in Brooklyn,
Oh,
Yeah.
just like a hippie.
Yeah.
like I said, just turn the TV
Yeah,
on and you
exactly
can
right.
keep trying to
Exactly
Kiku.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, thanks again for coming up. Really appreciate it. I hope all of you enjoyed this as much as I did. So much great info we got today. So
Hey, thanks for doing this.
Yeah. This is fun.
my absolutely
have all this information out. It's
my
killing
pleasure.
me.
Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen without you guys. So we need the talent, as
Yeah,
they say.
but you're the band leader at this point.
At any rate, thanks everybody for checking us out. This time, we'll see you next time on Bone2Pick.
I got a bone to pick with you.